other line, so I'm not gonna.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of I'm Not Gonna Hold You. This is the first edition of 2023. It's your boy Scott. You know to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BarbChairScott. You know to follow H&B Media, H&B Media TV on Twitter, and then H&B Media on Instagram. Follow the Barbershop Network at the BC Net on Twitter, at the Barbershop Net on Instagram, and visit the website thebcnet.com. Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Barbers Chair Network, man. We are back. It's been about a month since the last time we had an episode, man. The holidays were a good time. It was good to be around my family. I hope y'all had a good holidays. Hope y'all enjoyed all y'all free time, but it's a new year. In fact, not only is it a new year, we're almost halfway into the new year. So, we're in the full swing of things here in 2023. We've got a lot of stuff to go over today. As you can see on the rundown, the NFL playoffs, man, we're about 48 hours away from the beginning of Super Wild Card Weekend. Well, we've got a whole bunch of teams going at it. I'm going to preview the AFC and the NFC, and I'm going to give my Super Bowl prediction, which I'm not too confident in because I don't know what the hell is really going to happen in this playoffs. This is a season where I feel like you can name 5 to 6 legitimate teams who can win it all. So it's going to be interesting, but I will try to do my best to give y'all who I think is going to be in the big show in a month in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll also get into a little NBA talk. We are officially at the halfway mark of the NBA season. So we're going to get into that, man. But before we do anything, we're going to start with my sound off, man. And my sound off is going to be on the beloved Chicago Bears. Man, it is Chicago Bears world right now, man. I'm very happy as a fan of the Chicago Bears. I'm also happy as a media member, as a person who covers the Chicago Bears, because there's a lot of exciting things to cover right now. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, the Bears had probably one of the greatest days for a Bears fan, with them losing to the Vikings, solidifying that at the worst they'd have the number 2 draft pick in the draft because they lost 10 in a row. And finishing the season with only 3 wins. And then a thing that I don't think, a lot of people thought was going to happen, especially if you watch the game, where the Houston Texans came back last minute to beat the Indianapolis Colts to push the Bears up to having the number 1 draft pick, man. I got to salute the one and only Lovie Smith, man. Once a Bear, always a Bear. There's nothing like giving a middle finger to the establishment, especially when you know they're going to fire you. It was a big-time play. 4th and 20 touchdown pass from Davis Mills to Brandon Cooks, and it ended up being a 2-point conversion also, which gave the Bears the number 1 draft pick. So now the Bears have the number 1 draft pick. They've got over $130 million in cap space this upcoming offseason. And with this number, and they've already got 8 other draft picks as it stands right now. And the best part about this is I feel like the Bears have executed at least the best tank in NFL history. Now, this might be, I won't say it's the best tank in sports history, because I think the only one you can put over there is when the San Antonio Spurs rested David Robinson to end up getting Tim Duncan, and we all know what happened with that 5 NBA championships later. So that was probably the best tank of all time. But the Bears are getting up there. I never thought we'd have a season. Well, they'd have a season where they won 3 games, and I had fun. I had fun because we got our franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. It was fun to see that. And even though they were losing, they were in every game. They only lost by double digits twice this season, and one of those, Justin Fields didn't even play the game. So that was good. You're able to know that we've got your quarterback, and now you've got a first pick, and with the most money in cap space, now you're able to dictate the entire offseason. People got to come to you to do business. And now there's so many different options that can go with this number 1 draft pick, be able to trade down. You can do multiple trade downs because there's a lot of holes on this team. That's as good as execute this tank is and how better this team can be next year. I still think the Bears have probably about 2 years before they can be a legit Super Bowl contender, because there's so many holes. You got to get Justin Fields a better offensive line. You got to get Justin Fields some actual NFL caliber wide receivers. You got to get you a better defensive line, because there was absolutely no pressure on quarterbacks this season on that front 7. So there's a lot of holes for this Bears offensive line, but you have the money and you have the cap space, and now you have the number 1 draft pick to be able to do that, man. So that's pretty exciting. I think Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus had their end of season press conference on Tuesday, which I thought that Ryan Poles handled it fantastically. He did the best by putting confidence in Justin, saying that he will be the starter next year, but also keeping the door open with the number one draft pick. When somebody asked him, would you see yourself taking a quarterback at number one? And he said, I'd have to be actually absolutely blown away. Now, for some of you idiots, and there's a lot of idiots, and not just Bears Twitter, but NFL Twitter right now, you don't want to play your hand as a general manager with the number one draft pick and 100% say, oh, I'm going to trade this pick, or I'm not going to take another quarterback. For the reason is you want to bump that price up as high as possible. You want basically what was a skeleton of the trade for the Jared Goff trade, where they had multiple first rounders and multiple second rounders and multiple third rounders. You want to get an absolute haul. If the rest of the league knows that you're 100% trading the pick, they're going to try to lowball you. So this is all perfect business strategy by Ryan Poles. But when he was asked twice, does he expect Justin Fields to be the starter next season? He said yes both times. Now, there's going to be a lot of dumbass discussion about this. There has already been. It's only been, 4 or 5 days since then, and we've been having nothing but dumbass conversation. Now, I actually get more into that later in the show, my Goofy Mog of the Week. But good, I think it was a nice press conference by Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. And then today, big news today coming out of Hallis Hall. The Bears have their new president and CEO. It is Kevin Warren. He was the commissioner of the Big Ten, in college. And of course, we all know the current president who was getting ready to resign at the end of February. Getting ready to retire at the end of February is Ted Phillips. He was he was the president of the team for over 23 years. He's been with the Bears for 40 seasons, and this is a nice transition because it's the first hiring outside of the McCaskey family. And for those of you who are not familiar with Kevin Warren, he's 59 years old. He has 21 years of experience in the NFL. He was an executive with the Rams from 97 to 2000. Of course, he's part of the people who were with the best show on turf. He's with the Detroit Lions from 01 to 03, and he's with the Minnesota Vikings from 2005 to 2019. He was one of the people he was the head of getting that beautiful stadium they have there in Minnesota, US Bank Stadium, and anchoring their whole facilities, and also increased the Minnesota Vikings financial value by a lot. He is also, of course, most recently served as commissioner of the Big Ten Conference from 2020 to 2023. Now, I know a lot of people were saying like how this is going to translate with Justin Fields, because we all know that at the Big Ten didn't want to play football when COVID first hit. And Justin Fields is one of those people who was on the front line saying that they wanted to play football. And there was a little friction between him and the Big Ten, but all that has been smoothed off because Justin was 20 years old when that happened. And we also got reports today that Kevin Warren actually met with Justin Fields early in the season when they played in Minnesota before he was actually considered for the job. And everything's been smoothed over. They have a good relationship. So that is something that I feel is a great hire for the Bears. One, because the Bears are pretty much a mom and pop shop. They never go outside of their little nest of what they're trying to do. And we saw a year ago where basically right after Ryan Pace and right after Matt Nagy were fired, there needed to be a cultural reset. There needed to be an organizational reset. And even the process that went to hiring Ryan Poles, of having this committee of people who knew what the current NFL front office should look like, and having that entire process and getting a guy like Ryan Poles, who was highly touted, and Ryan Poles getting an assistant GM in Ian Cunningham, which was a position that the Bears have never even had before, which is nuts because that's a typical position in the NFL. And now Ian Cunningham also has 2 general manager interviews this year. So that just shows you the strength of the front office so far. And now you've got a guy like Kevin Warren who's going to come in and financially and just even brand-wise put the Bears to where they 100% need to be as one of the kingpins in the NFL. This is the charter franchise. We hear it all the time. This is the franchise that started the NFL, and it needs to be on that platform. And we've already heard stuff right now about the Bears possibly being a Hard Knocks team. Now, we all know the McCaskey family usually don't like granting access. They don't want anything to show any competitive advantage, which is hilarious, but that's always been their philosophy. That might be something that might be more opened up to now that you've got a Kevin Warren. He knows about branding, getting your franchise quarterback in the beginning of this rebuild and these young, exciting players on television in front of a national audience on HBO. That might be something that could help the Bears out in the long term. And we even seen something with their little web series they had this year called 1920 Football Drive, which has been done the last 2 seasons, which is really about the offseason and training camp. And I think that's just something that was big for the front office, for the organization in general, because the Bears didn't even show what they've been showing in that YouTube series, man. So I think this is big. I think this is going to be even a bigger deal for the new stadium in Arlington, which is going to happen. I know a couple of y'all are holding on strong to Soldier Field, still staying. It's over. It's over. Well, as Future says, it ain't that time. It ain't that time. It's over. Let it go. The Bears are going to Arlington Heights, and they're going to get them a big, beautiful stadium that they deserve because they're one of the top franchises, man. So I'm excited about the future of the Bears. It's weird for me as a Bears fan to see them making smart decisions, and I'm excited. With draft season coming up, free agency coming up, the Bears have they have the pulse of everything right now. If you want to get more breakdown about this, we will have the 79th and Hallis season finale this weekend, and we'll be dropping. Me and my brother Flows, we got a couple guests. We're going to recap the season. We're going to talk about this upcoming season, and we got a lot of draft coverage coming for y'all this year. We will be at the draft for the second year in a row, man. So that's my sound off, man. It's been a really good week for the Bears, and I'm really, really excited to see how this offseason goes. Now, let's get into the playoffs, man. Let's get into it, man. We are 48 hours away from Super Wildcard Weekend. 18 weeks of NFL football are in the books. I'm excited. The Wildcard Weekend is always my favorite weekend. I really love the first weekend in any league playoffs because that's when we have the most games. So I'm really looking forward to this, man. So we're going to break down the AFC and the NFC wildcard game. So let's kick it off with the AFC. And the first AFC game will be Saturday night. It will be the AFC South Division champion Jacksonville Jaguars and their franchise quarterback Trevor Lawrence will be hosting the Los Angeles Chargers, who actually had a pretty good season, ended up winning 10 games. Justin Herbert had a pretty good season. They started off rough, but they had a pretty good season. So this is going to be a pretty exciting game, man. You got a preview of really the future of the NFL here, man. Two of the NFL's brightest young stars, a guy in Trevor Lawrence who just came into his own really in the middle of the season. And this is something you just see from the landscape of the NFL, where you got to keep it simple when it comes to these draft evaluations of who are the number one guys. Coming into the 2021 draft, everything we've heard up and since he was in high school, it was Trevor Lawrence number one, Justin Fields number two. And for those two to be the best quarterbacks out of that class, and then people wondering, oh, well, Justin Fields should have went higher. No shit. Don't overthink these things. And we're starting to see it with Justin Fields this year, and especially with Trevor Lawrence, as the Jaguars did what the Bears hope to do this offseason, will spend money and get more weapons around Trevor Lawrence. Around Justin Fields, like the Jaguars did with Trevor Lawrence. And as you see, a lot of people were scrutinizing the Jaguars last offseason. Oh, you're spending too much money on Christian Kirk. You're spending too much on Evan Ingram. Who are these guys? Spending too much on Zay Jones. And all these guys have contributed. Christian Kirk had a big game last Saturday in the AFC South championship game. And you just really see that paying the money, as long as they're putting up numbers, doesn't matter. This is all about market value. And the Jaguars felt that this was enough money to get this guy. And it comes out that it works, man. This team has had a great season coming out here 9-8, which is much better from what they were last year after having the number one pick 2 years in a row. So nice, great improvement by them. Great coaching by Doug Peterson, who I kind of feel like is becoming the quarterback whisperer. He's doing the same things he did for Trevor Lawrence that he was able to do with Carson Wentz before Carson Wentz became trash. And so we're starting to see the culture being built in Jacksonville right now. Now they're hosting their own playoff game. This will be the first time they host a playoff game in 5 seasons. So that'll be a huge crowd out there in Duval on Saturday night. As we saw last Saturday night, it was a packed crowd out there. And for the Chargers, man, Chargers started off rough, but they've come out and bounced back. And there's been a whole big of an offense problem, with the offense being real vanilla, and their offensive coordinator kind of making their big time throw quarterback Justin Herbert do more checkdowns, and it was just real bad. But over the last couple weeks, they're starting to get in the form. The offense is clicking. They got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back now. We don't know the status of Mike Williams for this week. He is uncertain. He was not on the practice field today, which is not a good sign. Never a good sign if you're not on the practice field on a Thursday before a game, especially a playoff game. But since it's playoff, who knows? He might toughen up and play on Saturday. But for right now, he's uncertain. Joey Bosa status is also uncertain for this upcoming game. They're going to need him to be out there and help Khalil Mack out on that front seven to try to get to Trevor Lawrence. So those are the injuries right there. If you look at some of the stats, the Jaguars have the second best pass catching defense in the NFL, and that's something that the Chargers thrive on with Austin Eckler, who has 107 receptions, 722 yards, and 5 touchdowns this season as a catcher. So that's going to be a nice matchup to see how they can counter the production that Austin Eckler has been given this season. Khalil Mack, my man Khalil Mack, in his first year with the Los Angeles Chargers, had 8 sacks, had a pretty decent season. Pretty much what you've been seeing from him outside of his first year with the Bears, where he had that outstanding 13-sack season. He's kind of been in the 9 to 8 sack range. And that's something, as you see, he's been as consistent. He's still not the game breaker that he used to be in Oakland in his first 2 seasons in Chicago, but he's still a guy that can make the life wild for the quarterback, and especially if he's out there with Joey Bosa. So definitely pay attention to that matchup against the offensive line in the Jaguars, which is improved, but still can, have some leaky holes every now and then. These teams also did play in week 3 with the Jaguars blowing the Chargers out at SoFi Stadium 38-10. But that was a long ass time ago. Week 3 is nowhere near where we are right now. And I really think this is going to be a pick'em game, man. I think this game can go either way. I would not be shocked at either outcome here. I tweet on Twitter about the stupid finish alert. I will bam on the stupid finish alert button right now, because I think this game is going to go down to the wire. I'm going to pick the Chargers. 27-24. I trust Justin Herbert just a little bit more than I trust Trevor Lawrence in because of youth. He's been in the NFL a little longer. Now, this is both of these two's first playoff game. So it's not like Justin Herbert has any playoff experience to fall on. Neither does Trevor Lawrence. Now, here's the flip side. I trust Doug Peterson way more than I trust Brandon Staley. So I can see this going either way. But I really need Trevor Lawrence. I really need Trevor Lawrence to be much better than he was last Saturday in the AFC South championship game against the Titans. He's got to get better, tightens more stuff up. But I'm going to take the Chargers. I think it's going to come down to a field goal, and I think they will be moving on with the third game against their AFC West division rivals, Kansas City Chiefs. Man, we always love seeing Mahomes versus Herbert, so that's what I think is going to happen. So let's go on to the second AFC game of the weekend, which will be another division, which will be one of 3 divisional matchups in the wild card weekend. We got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. These two split the regular season series 1-1. The Dolphins won early in the season, and the Bills won back on Christmas Eve, I think it was, between those two. Actually, it wasn't Christmas Eve. It was barely they played Christmas Eve, but it was the week before. It was a big snow game that happened in Buffalo. So they are 1-1, but there will be no Tua this week. Tua will not be playing. He is still not out concussion protocol, which is actually good. He's not playing. That kid should not be playing. I honestly think it's going to come to the question is, will he be able to play long term? Because he's already had 2 scary concussions this year, and maybe this just isn't a guy that they can rely on, and really for his health too. So I think it's going to be a larger conversation going into the offseason. But there will be Skylar Thompson. Skylar Thompson will be playing. Won't be Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater got hurt as well. Skylar Thompson last week against the Jets went 20 of 31, had 152 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. In the time he has played this season, he has a touchdown and 3 interceptions prior to last week. So not exciting. So they're going to have to probably rely a lot on the run game, but we don't even know if Raheem Mostert is going to play. He's questionable for this week. One thing about the Bills' passing defense is something that we can pay attention to right there. They have given up 18 touchdowns to wide receivers. Not bad, but also not good either. And the thing that you have to pay attention to, even without Tua, Jalen Waddle has had 100 yards in 5 of the last 6 games as a wide receiver, and he's also done it both in the previous games against the Bills. So that's something to pay attention to right there, that even with a Skylar Thompson, you can still get the ball to him, and we all know how Tyreek Hill gets too. So I'm really interested to see how this game plan that Mike McDaniel's going to come up with to try to combat against everything that the Bills going to be throwing. Now, the Bills, I mean, we all know about the Bills. They've been the number 1 team in football for majority of the year. They aren't the number 1 seed because we all know what happened last week on Monday Night Football. And by the way, I'm so glad that DeMar Hamlin is out of the hospital, moving. I'm so glad he's still living, man. We put all our thoughts and prayers up to him and his family. And I'm glad that all of that came out great, man. That was really, really scary situation. Probably the scariest thing I've seen on the football field. So I'm glad that he is back and moving. So there's been a real emotional couple weeks for the Bills. So they lost out on the number 1 seed because of the game being forfeited. But if they do meet the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, it will be at a neutral site. And it was announced today by the NFL that the neutral site, if the Bills and the Chiefs meet in the AFC Championship game, will be Mercedes-Benz Dome Stadium, downtown Atlanta, which I think is a great venue to have the AFC Championship game, man. It's probably my second favorite arena in football after SoFi Stadium. Very, very great stadium. So I think that's a perfect place for the AFC Championship game if those two do meet. But the Bills crushed the not crushed, but they beat the Patriots last week in a very emotional game. 2 great kick returns in that game. And this team kind of has the team of destiny feel right now. I think this is going to be a flat out thrashing. I think this game will be over by halftime, and I'm going to go with the Bills winning 34 to the Dolphins 10, just because the Dolphins aren't going to be able to do anything without their franchise quarterback. And we don't know what the running game is going to look like with Raheem Mostert. Probably not even going to be able to play this weekend. So I think this one's going to be a bloodbath, man. Let's go to the third AFC game for this weekend. It will be the nightcap on Sunday. It will be the AFC North Division champion and defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Now, it doesn't look like Lamar Jackson is going to play this week, folks. He has not practiced yesterday. He did not practice at the beginning of the day, and it sounds like he's not going to go, and it's going to be Snoop Huntley who's going to be playing starting quarterback for the Ravens this week. This team just played last week. The Bengals pretty much ran away with that one. It was a nice offensive showing by Joe Burrow and by Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. And this team has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, man. They feel like they were screwed out of hosting another playoff game with the whole situation with the coin toss and things like that. But it's very hard to get to back-to-back Super Bowls no matter who you're the team, whether you win or loser, but especially if you're the loser never comes back. And that is the hole right now that the Bengals are facing, the dilemma that the Bengals are facing. They have finished the season off very, very strong. They held it down. T. Higgins held it down. Joe Mixon held it down when Jamar Chase was out for about 5 to 6 weeks. And it feels like this team is clicking. Now they're very loose on the offensive line again, had a couple injuries, but I don't think they're going to have any type of problem this week. I know there was a lot of shit talking this week between Roquan Smith and Jamar Chase because Jamar Chase said that Roquan intentionally pushed him last Sunday, which it did look like. And by the way, I want to give a congratulations to Roquan Smith. He got his contract, 5 years, $100 million for the Ravens. I think it's good for Roquan. I don't really know about the Ravens because I think it's kind of smelly that you pay a linebacker, which isn't a middle linebacker, which isn't a premium position in today's NFL anymore, over your franchise quarterback, who I believe isn't playing because he's upset that he hasn't got paid. I don't think this has anything to do with any serious injury. I do believe that Lamar is hurt, but I don't think he's injured. And I think that the contract situation here is going to be something that's going to loom over this franchise the entire offseason. And especially if they franchise tag him like I expect, then that's when the shit is really going to hit the fan. I feel like there's something they're not telling us about this situation. And I kind of want to expound on that next week. So we're going to get more into that next week because their season will be over next week. And I got the Bengals winning this one 31-13. I think this is going to be a blowout. I think we're going to get a lot of gritties from Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is going to do his thing. Joe Mixon is going to do his thing. And my man, Joe Burrow is going to do his thing, man. And Joe Burrow had the hardest quote of the week when they asked him about maximizing his championship window. And he said, my whole career is a window. That's a bar. So shout out to Joe Burrow. And I do think that the Bengals will advance to the next round. And that will probably set them up for a rematch against the Buffalo Bills, which everybody wants to see, man. So that is the AFC wildcard preview. Let's go on to the NFC, man. 3 games in the NFC. The first game for Super Wildcard Weekend will be kicking off on Saturday. We'll be live from Levi Stadium over in Santa Clara, California, home of the San Francisco 49ers. This is another division matchup. They will be hosting the Seattle Seahawks, man. A great bounce back year, a career-defining year for Geno Smith, throwing 30 touchdowns this year and getting Seattle back in the playoffs. And they got in because of a great win by the Detroit Lions over the Green Bay Packers, which catapulted them into playoffs. Now they're going to go against the nasty division rival San Francisco 49ers for third time this year. The Niners are currently on a 10-game win streak. In the 2 games they played against Seattle this season, they have held Seattle to under 14 points. They won earlier back in week 2, 22-7. Of course, that was the game that Trey Lance got injured in. And then they won back in week 15, 21-13, which is much more close score. And that's kind of roster-wise what this is going to look like. That was Brock Purdy's first start. And they held Seattle to 4-13 on third down in those 2 games. So this is something where I feel like the Niners have everything. They've got a coach. They got a good play caller. They've got a generational defense, I feel. They can go out here and win a championship. This is a defense I believe that we'll be talking about with the 2015 Broncos, with the Legion of Boom, with the 2000 Ravens, with the 85 Bears. I think this defense is that damn good. Led by all those guys. They got it by Nick Bosa, by Fred Warner. They've got, everything from the corners all the way down. It's just that. I think the biggest question mark here for this team is the quarterback situation. Now, Brock Purdy, despite how I feel about him, and by the way, my issues with Brock Purdy has nothing to do about Brock Purdy. It is just the way I feel like national media pumps up the little engine that could white quarterbacks, but brings down everything with the highly touted black quarterbacks who've been good since forever. So it's really about the narrative that has surrounded Brock Purdy that I had a problem with more than the actual kid Brock Purdy. I think his story is incredible. Brock Purdy had 13 touchdowns, only threw for 3 interceptions since his week 13 start. He has a QB rate of at least 104 of his last 5 games, and he's been throwing for at least 2 touchdowns in the last 5 games. So he has been out there not just being a game manager. He's been out there making plays with Debo Samuel, with Brandon Ayuk. And let's talk about Christian McCaffrey, man. Run CMC. He has been killing it. And I think the biggest question mark for Christian McCaffrey has just always been his health. Him playing ball has never been an issue. He's cold, and I feel like this trade has been a win-win for both franchises. It's a win-win. It's a win for the Niners because now they have a great running back and can complement their offense. A guy that can take you over to the next level to win the championship. And if you're Carolina, you had a great fight to end the season. You had a shot to win the NFC South. I hope they found their coach, Steve Wilkes. I think he should be the guy. They fought, and now you've got multiple draft picks from the Christian McCaffrey trade to build. Now, if you want an actual quarterback, you can come call 1920 Football Drive. We're open for business with the Chicago Bears. We'll take all those draft picks you got. But I think that was a real good trade for both teams, man. So, and if you look at Seattle, on the Seattle side, Seattle's offense has been fluttering over the last couple weeks. They've been held to under 20 points in 3 of their last 4 games. And Geno did not have a great game last week against the Los Angeles Rams. He's picked off twice by Jalen Ramsey. Only had 1 touchdown. He has been coming a little bit down to earth. But this is the playoffs. And not only is it the playoffs, it's a division rival game. It's very hard to beat your division rival 3 times because both teams know each other so well. All these stats I just named are honestly meaningless, not only because it's the playoffs and it's any given Sunday, because it's a division game and you know each other. It's not about X's and O's. It's just about who's not going to fuck up. So I do think this is going to be a fairly competitive game, and I think it's going to go down to the wire, but I think The Niners will probably get a touchdown late in the fourth quarter to win this one by double digits. So I think the Niners win this one 31-17, but I do think this will be a highly competitive game, and they will move on to the next round. Now let's go to the next NFC game. This one is another pick 'em right here, man. Vikings and Giants. The Vikings won the NFC North this year. Pretty good statistical year for Kirk Cousins. The man Justin Jefferson, man. Now, I said last year that Devontae Adams was the wide receiver in my division as a Bears fan, who I was a fan of, but I was ashamed because he's on my most hated rival. But now that Devontae is out in Vegas, I can openly stand for him, and I have been doing that. Justin Jefferson has taken Devontae's crown as a division rival that I am an absolute fan of. I love everything about Justin Jefferson, one of the originators of the gritty, and he's just been incredible. He smashed every Randy Moss record. He's been the leading receiver for receiving yards this year, and he's just been ultimately just straight up dominant. Now, the Vikings have not played well over the last month. We all know about a 30-point comeback against the Indianapolis Colts. And yes, I do know they won that game for the biggest comeback in NFL history, but there's no way they should have been down 30 points at home to fucking Matt Ryan to begin with. That is a question mark. They just went out there and they got straight up holed by the Green Bay Packers on New Year's Day. They let the Packers put a 40 ball on them, and Jai Alexander talked all that shit and locked Justin Jefferson's ass up. So that was a problem. And they just played this team that they're getting ready to play on Sunday a couple weeks ago in week 16 against the Giants, where they barely won 27-24 on a 60-yard field goal. So this one I think is going to go down to the wire. I'm very much on the fence with this one, man. Kirk Cousins, he had to come back. He let it come back in that game against the Giants a couple weeks ago. He had 3 touchdowns in week 16, but he leads the league in fourth quarter comebacks. Yes, you heard that right. Kirk Cousins leads the league in fourth quarter comebacks. Saquon Barkley on the Giants side, but everybody had questions about him coming to this. How's he going to be? Coming off the ACL tear, running backs don't really age well. Well, he came back with a vengeance. Saquon had over 1,300 yards rushing. He had 10 touchdowns. He was the Saquon of old. And I think he's going to get a pretty decent contract for running back standards, whether that means he's going to go back to the Giants or maybe it'll be another team to play him. But Saquon will be a threat. You got to give up to Brian Daboll, who's entirely came in and switched everything up with that team, got him back in the playoffs for the first time since 2016. I still don't think that Daniel Jones is a quarterback of the future, and I still think that the Giants may be hustling backwards a little bit, and they need to get them a quarterback that they can actually build on. But Daniel Jones did enough to get this team to win the amount of games to get in the postseason. They're a hard-nosed, run the football, play defense type of team that's not going to quit. And those are the type of teams that the Vikings don't play well against. And also on the Viking side, got to give up to Zadarius Smith, who had 10 sacks this season. That's going to be something you need to pay attention to from the front seven wide when it comes to attacking Daniel Jones. I think this will be a very, very close game, just like the Week 16 game. I would not be shocked whatsoever if the New York Giants won this football game. I damn near want to pick them, but I'm going to pick the Vikings. I don't think it's going to be a pretty win. I think you're going to get a couple Kirk interceptions, but I just think offensively, they just have way more firepower. They have the best receiver in the NFL. You've got a pretty good running back in Dalvin Cook. The Giants are not good at guarding the tight end. They're at the bottom of the NFL when it comes to guarding tight ends and how much yards they give up. And Tyler Hockenson has been dominant ever since they got him from Detroit. And I think that's going to be the big factor. And I think the Vikings will win this one 31-24, and they will move on to the next round. Now let's get to the game of the fucking weekend, the Monday Night Football, ending of Super Wildcard Weekend. It will be the GOAT, Thomas Brady, and the NFC South Division champions hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, one of the best defensive players in the league, Micah Parsons, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, that whole little crew over there. This game right here, man, this is another one that could go either way, man. And let's just be very real about this. We're looking at the tail of the tape. The Buccaneers are not a good football team. Everything football-wise, everything logically should tell you that the Cowboys should not only win this game, the Cowboys should whoop their ass. Like, that's just how bad offensively this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team has been. And I think it's a mix of the offensive line being hurt and Tom Brady not really having protection. But it's also been you're starting to actually see some of the age hit Tom Brady. Now, granted, Tom Brady still had a pretty good year for 45-year-old quarterback standards. I mean, we throw 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, under 10 picks. That's pretty good for anybody, especially if you're 45 years old, but not when you're Tom Brady. So it was a down year for Tom Brady. But in the last couple of weeks, they've been able to pick it up a little bit. Had a huge 3-touchdown game, again, with him and Mike Evans. Was able to go out there, win the NFC South last week against the Panthers, 2 weeks ago against the Panthers. And it's just Tom Brady, man. It's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady at home. It's Tom Brady in the playoffs. It's Tom Brady in prime time with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call. And I just can't go against Tom Brady. And look against Dallas. Dallas is literally limping into the postseason right now. Dak Prescott has not been doing good. He's thrown interception in 7 straight games, threw a pick 6 last week against the Washington Commanders. They have not been good. They have not been good whatsoever. The Bucs defense this year has only picked all quarterbacks 10 times. So that's something you need to pay attention to. They're not really ball hawks on there. They defend pretty well, but as far as turnovers, they have a problem with that. Only 5 teams in the NFL have had less interceptions than this Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary. So that's going to be something. But all my football knowledge tells me that the Cowboys should win this game. And I feel like if they do win this game, it's going to be a tremendous monkey off their back. And then who knows what can happen from here. But I'm going to pick the Bucs, man. I'm going to pick the Bucs only because it's Tom Brady and because I'm going to ride with Tom Brady until the wheels fall off. We even saw last year when they were getting absolutely thumped by the Los Angeles Rams, they came back to the lead. And if it wasn't for coverage busted by Antoine Winfield Jr. that led to that massive 70-yard Cooper Kupp touchdown in overtime, they might have won that game. So this is something that you know that you got to throw all the regular season stats out. Tom is the GOAT. He knows what it takes to win. He's got his weapons. He's got Mike Evans. He's got Chris Godwin. He's got Leonard Fournette, who's been big the last couple of weeks. And they're at home. They're at home. So I'm going to pick the Buccaneers to win this one by field goal, 23-21. But I also wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys win. I think this is going to be a very exciting playoffs, man. Let's get into my Super Bowl prediction. I can see this going so many ways. There's so many teams who could win. The Eagles could come out of the NFC. The Niners could come out of the NFC. There's a lot of teams, and the AFC is a juggernaut. It's really the quarterback conference right now with Patrick Mahomes, with Josh Allen, with Justin Herbert, with Joe Burrow. And you got a guy like Trevor Lawrence who's coming up soon. And it's going either way. But I've stuck with the Bills all season. I said in the NFL preview podcast we had all the way back in August, I said Bills going to win a championship. I'm not as confident as I was back in August. They got a lot of question marks. I'm still not that big on their offense. I know they put up a lot of fucking points, but I think one thing a lot of people don't pay attention to is they really only have one receiver who can get open consistently like that. It's kind of Stephon Diggs a bust a lot of times, and that concerns me. And also when you have a team like Kansas City. In Kansas City, yes, I'm concerned about their wide receiver core. I think there's any time this season that they're going to miss Tyreek Hill is going to be in the playoffs. I wouldn't count on Juju Smith-Schuster. I wouldn't count on some of these younger guys come playoff time. Now, of course, Travis Kelce is going to do what Travis Kelce does, even though they're going to put extra defenders on him. I'm still worried about that. But at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is a fucking alien. And I just really would not be shocked if they ended up beating everybody who they play this year. But I'm going to stay with my pick of the Bills. The NFC is a little tougher. Of course, we know the number 1 seed is the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm still not too sold on the Eagles. I don't even have a football reason for why I'm not sold on. I'm just something about them. I'm just a little off on it. And I also don't feel that Jalen Hurts is 100% healthy. So that's going to be a factor in that. But I think the San Francisco 49ers come out the NFC. I really do. I think that they've got every ingredient that you need. They got a great defense. They got a great running game. They got a pretty good offensive head coach. And as long as Brock Purdy continues to play like the way he's played the last couple weeks and he doesn't fuck up, I think this is the team that can not only come out the NFC, but even win the whole thing, man. But I'm going to say the Super Bowl next month in Arizona will be Bills Niners. And I think for the first time in their franchise history, the Buffalo Bills will hoist that Lombardi trophy on February 12th. And if you're a long-time Bills fan, the remembrance of losing 4 Super Bowls in a row in the 1940s, you can finally put that to bed, and there will be a big party out there in Western New York, man. So that is my Super Bowl prediction. So we'll see if I'm right or not. We're gonna wrap this up with some NBA talk. It says weekly power rankings on the rundown. We don't have any weekly power rankings today, so I don't know why that was on there, but we're ignoring that on there. We're just gonna close up with the midseason NBA storylines. We are officially at the halfway mark, and I'm gonna keep saying those in every podcast I do. The halfway mark is this: it's not the All-Star break. People got to stop saying that. When the season is pretty much 75% done by the time the All-Star game is over. You got 25, maybe 30 games left in the NBA season after the All-Star break. This is official All-Star break. Right now, number one team in basketball is the Boston Celtics right now. They have the number one seed. Number one in the West is the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, all of them. But one of my main storylines right now is the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets have been on fire. Brooklyn Nets have won 19 of the last 21 games. They are the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Kyrie Irving has been incredible. Kevin Durant has been incredible. Kevin Durant is the number one vote getter in the Eastern Conference right now for the All-Star game. Of course, we know the other one in the West is LeBron James. They've been dominant. I think the biggest thing that's been over the last couple of years with the Nets is can they all put it together? Even when they did play, is can they play defense? And that is one thing they've been doing that's impressed me the most, and why actually I'm starting to believe in this team a little bit, is they're actually playing defense. We all know that this team can score with the best of them. We got 2 of the best scorers, not only in the NBA right now, but in league history, in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now, if you can lock up and play defense, that takes you to a different dimension, man. So you've got Ben Simmons, who I feel is slowly starting to come back to what the player he used to be. Now, he still has some question marks. The man still can't shoot, and he can't buy a fucking free throw right now. But I think that's something that they need to pay attention to going forward. TJ Warren has been great off the bench. Nick Claxton has been great off the bench. Seth Curry does what Seth Curry does. And really, more than anything, I got to give love to Jacques Vaughn, who's coming there, and they removed the interim tag from him as the head coach. He is the head coach of the Nets. And I'm really glad they didn't go through that Ime Udoka hole like it looked like they were going to go through. But he has been great. And not only does it show you just how good he's been, it's also show you just how bad Steve Nash was. That all you needed was just adequate coaching to get this team to where they need to be. And they're right there in the hunt. They've got a big-time game tonight against the Boston Celtics. Now, the question here, and here's a little damper on the party, Kevin Durant is going to miss at least the next 4 weeks. He's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. He has an MCL sprain. It feels like every time KD gets hurt, somebody's falling on his knee. So I really need people to stop falling on KD's knee. So now the question is, do they have enough? Can Kyrie put extra weight on his shoulder to carry this team for the next 4 or 5 weeks and keep them afloat in the Eastern Conference? Tonight will be a big step in that direction, trying to get a W over the Boston Celtics, man. So I think that's going to be a big game, and I'm buying what they're selling as long as they can keep the thing afloat going forward. I think the Nets could be a team to be reckoned with, man. Another storyline, Mr. LeBron James just turned 38 not too long ago, man. He has been on a tear these last couple games, averaging almost 40 points since he's turned 38. The Lakers are playing much better. They're still 11th seed right now. They got some good news on Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is on schedules. Hopefully, he'll be returning to the court soon. Lakers have been in every game, playing very well, got some good wins. And even though they're 11th seed, they're only like a game behind the 6th seed, man. So the Lakers are right there. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to do around the trade deadline. Is there anybody they can go out there and get and just try to get this team into that top 6? Now, the main story here is LeBron. As I like to say, LaChase and Kareem. He is 164 points away from passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be the all-time scorer in NBA history. So I expect that to happen within the next month and a half, depending on if he continues to stay healthy or not. All he has to do, I think, is average 25 points a game. He should be able to break that record by the second week of February. So that's something to look for over these next couple weeks, man, as LeBron breaks that record. Next thing I've been paying attention to, man, we are in a transition period in the NBA. You're starting to see a lot of the old guard not really being moved to the side, but it's starting to, they're getting closer to the stage exit. And we're really starting to see the real influx of NBA new bloods right now. We're getting incredible performances. I don't think the actual games this season have been that good. There's been a lot of blowouts, but the individual performances have been crazy. I mean, you got Luka doing what he's doing. He had a 60-point, 20 rebound, 10 assist game just not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. Giannis is out here dropping 30 and 20 like it's just some regular shit to do. Zach LaVine had a string of 40-point games. Him and DeMar scored like 71 one time. Speaking of 71, Donovan fucking Mitchell scoring 71 points, which is the highest in NBA history since Kobe Bryant's 81 points that he scored over, what was it, like 17 years now. And it's just been so many incredible performances. Coach Jokic is doing what he's doing. And I really think you're starting to see what this new era is going to be. Zion has been great. Ja has been great. And we're starting to see the new class, the new school really coming to front and center. And you're seeing the future of the league on display. And we talked about this on the Ball Don't Lie podcast. I feel like if you think this is a bad defenses they're allowing this, I don't think you're watching these games. I think this is the evolution of the game on display right now, where it's just good offense and it's just freakish type players. Where this is becoming a norm because of the talent. We got a guy in Victor Wembanyama who is shooting, pull up fadeaway threes, and he's 7-4. And that's the type of talent that's not even in the league yet. And I really think that from an individual perspective, the league is in great hands, and it's really about who's going to take that LeBron James baton and lead this league into the next decade to get it to that level. Because as talented as these players are, you got to find somebody who has the star power of a LeBron James. And who knows, it could be Luka. I was at the Clippers Mavericks game not too long ago, and I was in the warm-ups, and I saw just how the kids, black and white, gravitated towards Luka Doncic. And when he walked out to do his warm-ups, it felt like fucking Michael Jackson was coming out. So you're seeing that type of thing growing, and we all know Zion is huge. We all know the marketability that Giannis has. And I really think it's a good time if you're an NBA fan that, we still love LeBron. We still love Steph. We still love KD. We still love those guys, but those are the elder statesmen now, and they are guys who, LeBron's in his 20th year in the league. I think KD's like in year 16. Steph is like in year 14 right now. So these guys are the veterans, and even though they're still productive, they're on the way out and really starting to see really what the future of the NBA is in store, man. So I think that's really been something that's been exciting to watch the first half of the season. I think it's going to be even more exciting to watch the second half of the season, getting into this playoff push and getting into the postseason. Number 4 storyline, Mr. Nikola Jokic, 2-time defending NBA MVP. He has got his Denver Nuggets at number 1 in the Western Conference. They got Jamal Murray back. Aaron Gordon's been having a good year. When he does play, Michael Porter Jr. has been good, and just really love everything that Mike Malone is doing with that team. But Jokic has a shot to do something that has not been done since the 80s, where the GOAT, the white GOAT, Larry Legend won 3 MVPs in a row. He got a shot to do that, man. I do think this MVP race is going to be closer than anything we've seen because, Jokic is hooping, but KD is hooping. Giannis is hooping. Zion is hooping. Ja is hooping. I feel like there's a lot of people. Tatum has been hooping. I feel like this is a 5, maybe 6-man MVP race, but he has a chance to actually, if they can probably finish with the number 1 seed, become that third straight MVP team. That would never happen for Michael Jordan. Never happened for LeBron James. So this would be something interesting to see if he can do that. And that's something I got my eye on these next couple months is what exactly him and the Denver Nuggets are going to be able to do. And not only just the regular season, but come playoff time. This is a team where Jokic has not had his full team healthy in a couple years. So what can they do with the healthy Jamal Murray, with the healthy Michael Porter Jr., and with Aaron Gordon playing as well as he's been playing? That's something I feel like Denver can be a force to reckon with. Now, my final observation or storyline from the first half of the season is defending NBA champion Golden State Warriors. Who the fuck are these guys? I don't know who they are. I don't know who. Steph Curry just came back from being out for about 5 weeks this past I think it was yesterday, Tuesday, against the Phoenix Suns. They got their ass whooped. Now, they made it close towards the end, but they really were getting their ass whooped majority of the game. Ended up losing to a Phoenix Sun team that didn't have Devin Booker, that didn't have Chris Paul, and the Warriors had no business doing that. The Warriors have had some pretty impressive wins at the crib, actually beating the Memphis Grizzlies on Christmas Day with no Steph Curry, with no Andrew Wiggins, the big game that Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson, especially with all the shit talking that the Grizzlies had coming into that game, and they had such a good homestand. They got them back into this playoff race. So they're in the play-in. They're only like 2 games behind the 5th seed. in the West. So they're right there, but they also have the worst record on the road. That's a problem. I kind of feel like this team thinks that they can just turn it on come playoff time, and who says they can't? I mean, they've won 4 NBA championships now. If there's any coach who can prepare his team for it, it is Steve Kerr. And majority of this roster was on the championship team last year, so they know what it takes to win. And I don't think it's a situation where a home court matters for them. But at the same time, they got to get some consistency, man, because this, this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of play is just not going to roll. The West is too stacked, and it's something they got to get together. But now that Steph Curry is back, now that Andrew Wiggins is back, now that Clay is looking like that he's starting to finally get back in form, they have an opportunity to right the ship. Now they just got to do it, man. So those my midseason storylines, man, as we head into this Martin Luther King Day weekend. Of course, we know they got the big games Martin Luther King Day that the NFL likes. That the NBA always does. And we're only a couple weeks away from trade deadline, man. Trade deadline is February 9th. So things really going to heat up on that front in the NBA, man. So we're going to wrap this show up with my Goofy Mog of the week. And we're going to kind of circle back to what I was talking about in my sound off. My Goofy Mog of the week is for all you stupid motherfuckers who say that the Bears should trade Justin Fields. Stop it. Stop it. It doesn't make any sense. I like Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is cool. But Bryce Young don't even weigh 200 pounds. Bryce Young ain't 5'9". There's no way that dude is 5'9". I think he'll be cool, but he definitely ain't going to be cool behind this offensive line. And especially a guy in Justin Fields, look at the type of things he did this year with the worst wide receiver core in the NFL, with the worst offensive line in the NFL. He broke all these rushing records, and he's not even a runner. I think this is something that got lost in this season. He is a pocket passer. This is what he is. That's what he was at Ohio State. That's what he was drafted to be. He even said it himself. He told us, I've talked to Justin Fields multiple times this season while covering the Bears. He said he don't run this much. He's only doing it out of necessity. But that, to me, is a great part of his game that you can move forward now when you get him a good offensive line, when you get him NFL caliber wide receivers, when you get him, a year with Chase Claypool. And even if you look at the last couple of weeks, they were talking about the points tailed off, and when they were scoring 30 points a week for 6 weeks. Yeah, that's because Darnell Mooney got injured and missed the last 6 weeks. Use your head here, people. Chase Claypool got injured. I think, first of all, there's no chance in hell, by the way. I'm glad that Ryan Poles is stupid like Bears Twitter and a lot of I won't say Bears media. A lot of Bears media know what they're talking about, but a lot of national media don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I can't get too mad at national media because I understand the media game. I understand the content game. You got to do what you want to do to get clicks. And talk about trading Justin Fields is going to get you clicks. It's going to get you views. It's going to make discussion. But my advice to Bears fans is ignore this stupid shit. I know it's been a long week of dumbass takes, and we got another 3 months of it left. But the Bears are not trading Justin Fields. They're going to trade this pick to the highest bidder, and they're going to get receivers, offensive line to surround about Justin and help him to take that leap that Jalen Hurts took, that Josh Allen took. And if you look at the passing numbers, Justin has better passing numbers in his first 2 years than both of them dudes did combined. So I feel like the sky's the limit, and I'm just tired of dumbass conversation. And by the way, this conversation only really happens with black quarterbacks, but y'all know that shit too. But that is all I got for y'all today. This is episode 13. I'm not going to hold you. We will be back next week. We might have to alter the time of the show next week, but I will keep y'all updated with that. But we will be back recapping Wild Card Weekend, getting y'all ready for divisional weekend next week. So we are in one of my favorite times of the year, which is NFL playoffs. We're only a couple weeks away from Super Bowl, man. So get y'all ready for all of that. Y'all know to follow me on Twitter at BarberChairScott on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow H&B Media TV on Twitter, and H&B Media on Instagram. Follow the Barbers Chair Network at the BCNet on Twitter, at the Barbers Chair Net on Instagram. Visit the website, thebcnet.com. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Barbers Chair Network. There's a new episode of Summer Sessions out right now. Check that out. We have a new Cinema with the Guys episode. Me and Dante will be breaking down season 2 of BMF. Check all that out. And we've got the season finale of 79th and Hollis dropping this weekend, man. So y'all enjoy y'all week. Enjoy the games. I know I will. And I'll holler at y'all next week, man. We out.
Getting paper on these player haters, old news. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna